Prepare yourself for Earthling Entertainment, the perfect blend of paranormal and pop culture, with your host, Joe Wakefield and Ryan Lang.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Earthling Entertainment with Joe Wakefield and Ryan Lang.
Hey, I'm your host who just had all his blood sucked out of his neck, Joe Wakefield.
And hi, I'm Ryan Lang.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
But if you out there are listening to us for the first time, well, you might be asking, what is this show? What is Earthling Entertainment? What do you guys do?
What?
Well, we'll tell you what we do. What we do here is a little bit of the spooky, a little bit of the creepy. Sometimes it's cryptozoology. Other times we are talking about a haunting or a legend or a myth. But it's always spooky.
Oh my god.
That, of course, is followed by a segment we like to call Disclosure Discussion. It's all about aliens.
I'm just asking questions. UFO stories, any kind of photos, videos, anything about interdimensionals or the drones in the sky, cattle mutilations. I could go on and on and on, and I will.
And we do. Then the second half of this show, the latter half, the latter half, if you will, is all dedicated to pop culture and entertainment.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's celebrity news. We have celebrity deaths we talk about. We have news that we talk about. Occasionally, we have audio dramas. Every once in a while, we do trivia games. Today, we have an awesome interview with Jake C. Young. So, hey, those two things put together, the spooky and the pop culture, form this wonderful podcast we like to call Earthling Entertainment.
Welcome indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Episode 69. I don't feel like I need to make a joke. It's a great episode, and it's all about blood sucking.
It certainly is, yes.
It is. We because the interview, obviously, this Jake C. Young.
From Daylight to Dark.
That's right. It's a vampire film. And then our spooky stuff today is also a bloodsucker. There's a little bit of a theme going on, if you guys...
Yep, we're definitely going with a blood-sucking theme, and I had the pleasure of doing some research yesterday, and today's spooky stuff's going to be a wild one, so I know that this show is going to be a good one, and I even was able to throw a little bit of blood-sucking into the disclosure discussion as well today.
So very much on theme. Now, for something that's completely not on theme, Ryan.
Yes.
So... Umbrella Entertainment, they make DVDs. They're from Australia, just like our spooky stuff this week, by the way. So we'll tie it in that way.
Yeah.
They make physical media for those people who still collect physical media. This is not an advertisement for them. I'm just trying to explain what I'm talking about.
For a second, I thought you were talking about like the people who made the zombie virus from Resident
No,
Evil.
not the Umbrella Company.
No, that's literally where my head went.
They're like, okay, zombies. No. Blu-rays, not zombies, Ryan.
Well, quite different. All right.
So I'm going through this box set that I got for Christmas, which is the Super Mario Brothers 1993 movie, which is one of the most underrated cinematic achievements but that's not the point. All right.
Bold statement.
It is a fantastic film. Here, I thought about this, Ryan, and the Mario Brothers movie is brilliant for several reasons. You think about the Goombas, okay? The giant 7-foot-tall Goombas. You're like, how is this an adaptation of Mario? Well, the round-headed ones were the mushroom ones. The long-headed ones were the turtle ones. Everything from the Mario Brothers game is interpreted in this film, and it is low-key fantastic. Is it a good adaptation? Yes. Is it a fateful adaptation? Fuck no.
I'm just saying, I remember being young, and I believe I went to the movies to see it when it came out, and I remember being disappointed myself, because I guess that's not what I was...
You wanted Mario.
I wanted and it wasn't. So I argue it was a bad adaptation.
No. See, hear me out. Great adaptation, not fateful adaptation. That is my argument here, because we have everything. We have the bombs in the film. They have that little bomb. He
that was
it up,
like
and
the
it goes
only
running.
thing that looked like from Mario.
There was more. All right, so they had those boots that made him jump high, right?
Yeah.
So that was their answer for why Mario could jump high. Once again, it's an interpretation, because how does a human be able to jump? They had those boots. Now, those bullets in the Mario that shoot past and that you have to jump around in the game were in the film as cartridges for the boots. Once again, not faithful adaptation, but they adapted everything. Even the scene where Mario rescues the princess and the other girls and they're escaping from Koopa Tower. They slide down a pipe on a mattress. Now, that is not like the game, except if you think the fact that Mario slides down hills all the time in the game. So this is once again the filmmaker's interpretation
But
of
that
how it
was-
could be real life.
When did the movie come out?
1993.
So that would be before the famous sliding thing, because that was from N64.
No, man, I'm talking about just in the normal levels. When you crouch down in Mario 3, you would slide down the hill,
Oh,
knock out a bunch of Goombas. See what I'm
guess,
saying?
yeah, I guess you're right. I guess. I mean, you're right, but like I said, it just, I guess I never, when I was a kid, I was disappointed. So
Everyone was disappointed. It did. Okay, so it ended the career of the filmmakers, like the husband and wife team who made it. They ended their career. They went crazy over budget. But once again, why is it a mushroom kingdom? It's a mushroom kingdom because there is fungus everywhere. They interpret it into real life. It was so good. It was so good, Ryan. And this box set from Umbrella has like a 234 like page script. Like, okay, if you write screenplays, by the way, a normal screenplay is probably, 100, 120 pages kind of thing. You think about it like a page a minute kind of thing. So that is just a ridiculously long screenplay. It has posters from Korea, Japan, United States, and Australia, I believe. It has like cards. Like it was a super expensive, like $200 set. And this, oh my God. Also, by the way, it'll never happen, but I've been thinking about writing a sequel to the to the Mario Brothers movie.
good.
Because Nintendo, I feel like we could pitch this to Nintendo because they hated it. Like they hated it so much they didn't adapt a video game up until like the Mario Brothers movie recently. Like they fucking hated it. So I feel like they definitely would not go for a pitch, but we pitch it as an animated film.
Yeah.
And because like it's low key nostalgic. The whole point is they have this umbrella set, this $200 umbrella set. So enough people must like it. So if you could like convince Nintendo, we'll make like just think of it as like this Elseworlds sequel animated. I don't know. Was that too much, Ryan?
No, there was not too much. I was just, you got me thinking about because I heard so many crazy things about that old Mario movie. Like, did you know that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Keaton were approached to play Koopa?
I would have loved to see Arnold Schwarzenegger makes a lot of sense. Like Michael Keaton, I get it because of Beetlejuice. They're like, he might be a fun Koopa, right?
Yeah.
But holy shit, dude, can you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger? Even if that movie wasn't changed at all, I would love to see that.
Danny DeVito was offered the role of Mario.
That makes perfect sense.
And
That's typecasting.
Tom Hanks for Luigi, but because of a string of recent box office failures that he had at the time, they dropped him for consideration. That's crazy. So Tom Hanks, what a turnaround his career did.
Oh my God! Because well, I know he won an Oscar in I think it was 95 for Forrest Gump. When was Philadelphia? Because wasn't Philadelphia? Here, I'll look that up.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't remember, but no, it's interesting because and I'm looking through and they said that they had, I knew there was something else. I'm looking up right here. They had a ton of problems with the filming and
of course, like I said, they went so out of budget. Like the filmmakers went fucking rogue, dude. Oh, we actually read this huge long article about it, and believe it or not, our first Earthling Entertainment episode. If you go all the way back to the first episode, which by the way is probably not a very good episode, but we do have we read the whole article about this movie. So it kind of feel like this is every year we're just going to talk about the Mario Brothers movie a little bit.
Yeah, it made $8.5 million during its opening weekend. Fourth
Nice.
place at the box office below Cliffhanger, Made in America, and Dave.
Okay, well, Dave is a great movie.
It grossed
That's Kevin Kline, man.
It grossed
No.
just under 21
Yes.
million and approximately 5 million tickets sold in the United States. So
Yeah, but what was the budget? What was the in budget? Do you
let's
know?
see. I don't know if it's. I'm going all the way to the top.
Because
Here we go, 'cause
it went
usually
nuts.
Oh Christ! The budget was 42 to 48 million. So they don't even know.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's what I'm saying. Because I bet initially they're like, it's going to be a $10 million movie. That's how rogue they went, man.
With a box office total of 38.9 mil.
Oof.
So yeah, that it was a stinker when it came to the box office, but it's obviously we're still talking about it today, and I see we're not the only ones. People love that movie. You're not the only one, Joe.
I know.
Yeah.
Andy on last week's show. You know, Andy, he loves Mario, so he actually has an unopened action figure from that film.
That's interesting. That's
It is,
cool.
right? I collect old movie stuff. I like have weird adaptations. Like I have a hardcover copy of an adaptation of the Poltergeist movie. I just like collecting that weird stuff. So,
No, that's cool.
so yeah.
No, I just
But
went.
that's
no,
why. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, but I just went to a bookstore with my girlfriend, and we were looking at like, there are so many cool books out there that you just want to buy and put on your shelf just because they look cool.
I know. That's why I have a library.
I know, yeah, and you always talk about your books, so I was just like, I just want to let you know, like, I get it.
Good.
see
I
it.
dread moving again.
Yeah, I have no place to put books, so I'm not gonna be buying them, but I appreciate it. I get it.
Yeah, fair.
They look cool.
Well, I appreciate. That's why to go back real quick to the Umbrella set, like that. If you like Mario Brothers, check them out. They're a great company from Australia. A lot of really good, cool things come from Australia.
Dude, yeah, and I think to me, this one jumped out at me because I was just like, I've never heard of this before.
What he's talking about is, of course, this week's spooky stuff.
The Yara-Ma-Yha-Who. Australia is famed for being home to some notably dangerous animals. One that often escapes people's notice is the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who.
Yara-Ma-Who, Yara-Ma-Hey, Yara-Ma-Who, Yara-Ma-Ha. Was that right? I don't really fucking know the real song enough to...
It sounded right to me.
Thank you. Nailed it.
The Yara-Ma-Yha-Who is a strange vampire in that it prefers to hunt during the daytime. Those who want to see a Yara-Ma-Yha-Who
It's a daywalker.
for themselves should pause under a fig tree in Australia.
Okay. All right.
According to legend, the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who is 3 to 4 feet tall and resembled a frog or monkey-like little man, owing much of its height to its comically oversized head. Its entire body was said to be covered in red skin or hair, and the tips of its fingers and toes were described as octopus-like suckers.
Okay, so if it is octopus-like suckers, I'm gonna go with not hair, right? Like because they described it as like a frog monkey man and octopus fingers. That is like a leathery, like froggy skin, like a dolphin, not hairy. So I'm gonna go with it's red, but like kind of rubbery.
Yeah, I saw more depictions, yes, of it looking more like frog-like, more like almost like a,
Like an anthropomorphic frog.
Yes.
Oh my god, it's a Battletoad.
Yes.
Good callback to that very hard game from the 90s. Continue.
It was
Ryan.
so hard. Its face was dominated by a wide, toothless mouth like that of a frog, apparently large enough to engulf a human being. Lurking in trees, it will wait for a person to stray beneath before dropping on them. Using the suckers on its hands, as it lacks teeth, it drinks almost all of the blood from the person. The still living victim is then swallowed whole by the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who. Not content with eating a person once, it will then vomit up the victim, perhaps to eat them again later.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? I'm gonna swallow you after I drink your blood. Somehow keep you alive. Maybe there's a little built-in oxygen tank, a biological one, mind you. And we give you air and we kind of comatize you a little bit like the face huggers from Alien.
Yeah.
And you're in the stomach, but while you're doing that, you're recovering, you're getting more blood. And then when I spit you back out, I could just suck your blood again. I mean, I feel like that's quite a process.
No, it's I want and I think like when when you're in its stomach, it's still absorbing something from you. So it's not sucking your blood out anymore, but it's still getting something.
Yeah.
Out of you.
Oh, you're getting kind of like shrink wrapped or something. I don't know. I mean, it keeps you alive. I guess that's good.
The person who has been attacked in this way by the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who somehow comes out of the experience weak, but mostly unharmed. They will, however, be a little shorter than they were before. God damn it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it depends on how tall you are, but like a couple inches in height, that is... I mean, what are we talking? We talking 1 inch? We talking like 6 inches? I mean, a little shorter is really relative.
Right. So that's what it says. You're a little shorter and then with a subtle red tinge to your skin.
It just looked like he got some sun.
Right.
Yeah.
Those attacked multiple times. See, that's maybe it's stomach acids. Like it was like burning your skin, so it turns all red.
Okay.
Those attacked multiple times by the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who may find themselves, they will become one themselves.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so like, can you imagine, like, how unlucky do you have to be? Because then how many times does it take? Is it like 4 times?
Well, you come out
like-
weak, so
yeah.
it's just like a really, really slow chase, just like,
like trying to get away. Oh shit!
and he's just like, I'm coming.
Yeah, he's just walking at a casual pace. It's like It Follows, but it's this weird Yara-Ma-Who.
It just waddles at you.
And he's just like, he's really creepy. He's like, I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna taste you.
You're gonna
I'm gonna.
You about to be shorter.
Ah,
You're gonna be shorter.
I'm gonna get you again. Like, oh God!
So the children all knew the story of the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who. In the aboriginal communities of the southeastern Australian coast, parents warned their sons and daughters about the little red men who hid in the boughs of the wild fig trees.
Man, it really sucks if you like figs. Oh my God! I wonder if you get like a per diem if you work as like a guy who picks figs.
Dude, I like figs.
Yeah,
Who
that's what I'm
doesn't
saying.
like figs?
That's what if it's their main export? What would you do? Be like, oh fuck, we're gonna have to risk life and limb or just height.
Wayward boys and girls.
Fucking everyone needs their fig Newtons.
Everyone that's where my head went.
Yeah,
I'm like, I
right?
love fig Newtons.
I know.
They really stuck with it. There was one guy who was like, dude, just figs. They're like, anything else? No, we're making a fig. That's it. Whole company.
That's not true at all. They make a lot of snacks, but continue.
Fine. Wayward boys and girls who wandered alone through the dense forests were the favored prey of these spirit men, who had lived alongside Aboriginal people since the dreaming, when the land and its creatures were created.
All jokes aside, we got to talk about the creation story of the Australian belief system. If it's the dreaming, holy
That's awesome.
We'll look into that.
That sounds like something out of Fallout. Like they just like they didn't know what, so like someone just made it up, and they're just like, the dreaming. Yes.
I would not have picked Fallout as my example, but I'm with you. It's very intriguing.
Awe,
So-
true to Kaisar.
We're gonna look into that.
If this creature successfully latches its bloodsuckers onto you, children were advised to simply lie back and submit to this attack.
Just let it happen.
As the monster would leave them be
It
when
feels
they're
like fucked up advice.
It
Like
really
the one
is.
old lady in town who's telling that to kids is just the Yara-Ma-Who with like a hood on. Like, yeah, just relax. It's fine. Don't worry about it. That's the best way to get them off your back. Just let it happen. Like, I don't remember Grandma being so fucking red. Oh, she tans. Too much.
So, evidently, the monster would leave them be when their struggling ceased.
This is backing up everything I said. But continue.
The Yara-Ma-Yha-Who could fashion no weapons. They stood no taller than a 10-year-old. But they didn't even have the teeth of a toddler, but they were feared nonetheless. I'm going
Predators.
to probably butcher this. The Garangeri writer from South Australia searched for the folklore of the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who and its horrifying kin, like the bunyip. Note to self, we're looking up what the bunyip is.
Bunyip? Yeah.
In the summer and fall of 1925, Unapans collected tales passed down orally for generations, arrived by post at the publishing office of Angus and Robertson in Sydney.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sydney. The Yara-Ma-Yha-Who, who was an exceptionally funny fellow, quote, Unapan wrote, with a strange way after he captured a person. The Yara-Ma-Yha-Who hunted like a cat, pouncing on its prey. He then placed his hands and feet on the victim, using octopus-like suckers at the ends of his fingers, at the tips of his toes, to drink the blood from the body. I may say that he does not try to suck all of the blood from the body, but leaves sufficient to keep the victim alive while he walks around to raise an appetite. Unapon wrote in his 1925 dispatch. So this goes way back, 100 years ago.
I mean, yeah.
When the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who returns, he opens his mouth wide like a snake's and swallows the victim down headfirst. Then
okay, so hold on. I know it won't kill you, but like, I don't want to be swallowed whole. I don't want to be chewed up either. What's worse? Like being like bitten and chewed or being just swallowed whole? They're two very different. It's like, what's worse, drowning or burning? They're both fucking terrible.
Yeah, just kind of getting munched on would suck and getting swallowed would suck. And especially like you're going head first, right? So when he stands up or whatever, you're upside down.
I feel like I've had this exact conversation with you recently.
Did we have to go through this before? Like, because it is frightening being upside down.
I think
and
we were
stuff,
talking about snakes. Yeah, no, we've already talked about this.
Okay,
excellent.
Well, the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who stands up though.
At least
it's like a man. It's like a man-like creature.
It's true. It's a little anthropomorphic frog who's red and swallows you whole.
Yes.
You know, at
and
least
sucks
it doesn't
your blood
kill you
with his fingertips and his toes.
It does feel like a video game, right? Like
Yeah.
like a Kirby thing. Like you're running, you.
Yeah, it does.
You're a little weaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He absorbed a little bit of your powers.
Exactly.
It's like so if you had powers, Joe, and Kirby absorbed you, what would he get?
I guess he'd be a little good at writing. You know. Yeah. Anyway, that's about it.
He would just get anxiety from me.
Yeah.
Then the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who will rise and stand on his little legs and dance around until the person is well inside his belly. So that's how he gets you in there.
La 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 la. Eating you. Nom 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 nom. Tasty man.
The horror of a Yara-Ma-Yha-Who attack is that
horror!
The victim is weakened, but not dead.
You know, it is like you said, because it would be like a slow chase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
you're
like,
right.
fuck, he's coming. I sure am.
Why won't anyone help me?
Because no one will.
Can you imagine, like, trying to get away from the woods while this thing is doing that slow chase? That would be scary. But you know what's even funnier? If he's just like somebody that people don't really like, and he's going through the middle of town, and just no one is helping. He's like dragging himself. Please, someone! He's gonna hit me again. And
Like he's moving so slow. You could totally save me right now.
Yeah, and you got it like the shopkeeper just takes a drag of the cigarette while staring directly at him.
He's a block away.
You guys are all dicks.
You know what? Fuck you guys. Screw you guys.
You're all homeowner association slaves.
Yeah.
It was just a bench.
That's right.
You fuckers. HOA fuckers. Sorry.
So back to the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who. The spirit man, they call him here, and this is the weird guy's writing here. Full from his meal, will lie down to nap. And when he wakes, he will do just what the whale did to Jonah. Spew him out. But the person who emerges from the belly of the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who is forever changed, Unapon wrote. It's
called PTSD.
It would be obvious in their appearance. After the first encounter with the spirit man, the victim would be shorter. After a second unfortunate meeting, the victim would be shorter still. And if one felt the fingers of a Yara-Ma-Yha-Who for a third time, Joe, the gruesome transformation would be complete. The victim would become a Yara-Ma-Yha-Who themselves.
All right, so 3 times. So that, that's not as funny of a chase. It'd be funny if it was like 14.
What had once been a human being would now be hunting them. And that was the last quote from that dude, Unapon, who did a 1925 article on them. So many aboriginals viewed the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who as extremely dangerous and exotic inhabitant of the outback rather than a truly supernatural spirit.
Yeah, so they thought it was like an animal.
Right. However, to the minds of non-native Australians, it is considered supernatural in nature.
I mean, I could see like how that could be a real creature, but it does seem like it falls under, I don't know, supernatural. I don't know, because like Bigfoot's not supernatural. If Bigfoot exists, it is just a creature, right?
Well, and
so if this,
with the suction cups on the hands, I couldn't think of it, and it's right here. It says it could be an unknown variety of tarsier, a primate from Southeast Asia with fingers that do have an appearance resembling suction cups. There were some problems with that theory, as tarsiers are relatively harmless and far smaller than the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who, and they also do not live in Australia. So, could just be another animal kind of like that, but I don't know.
I'm just imagining, like, the Vulcan mind melt where he, like, touches you on the forehead.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining, like, someone he's just like, oh, he's gonna touch my head. He's gonna.
Oh man, that would not feel good, having your blood drained by a Yara-Ma-Yha-Who. I don't even.
I just think a vampire in general isn't a great experience. I mean, I guess if it's like the saucy kind of vampire, right, where it's like a romance movie, then that's great because you get to stay beautiful. But a Yara-Ma-Yha-Who makes you short and red. That's you're not. It don't matter if you're sparkling in the sunlight. Bella ain't gonna fuck a little frog.
I mean,
Just
the Princess
saying.
and the Frog. He pulled it off.
Yeah, but it was like a reverse. He turned into a human.
Yeah. Well,
I don't mean to kink shame. Maybe there's someone out there who is super into anime red frogs.
oh, there is.
Well, yeah.
There's
there's someone into
There's
everything.
something for everybody.
There's something for everyone. Yeah.
That's right. If it exists.
Science.
Let's finish this with a classic ghost story from Australia.
Let's.
A hunter was out for a long walk one day in an area he had never visited before. He was in search of kangaroo meat, but he could not spot a single animal in the area, not even a bird. It was as if all living things had left this place.
That'd be eerie as shit.
At last he found a fig tree, and he plucked a handful of fruits, which he then ate with great satisfaction. After the meal of the sweet figs, he became lethargic and lay down under the shade of the tree to rest for a while.
Which it always happens to me when I eat too many figs, man.
I mean,
it's like turkey. It's like tryptophan. You just pass the hell out.
I mean, he was walking all day. He's hunting, Just as he dozed off, he was awakened by something grabbing him. When he looked up, he saw a little red old man hanging upside down from a branch in the fig tree.
Hello.
The creature had a giant mouth without teeth and large suction cups on its fingers and toes. It was these
let it happen.
who now grabbed hold of the hunter's arms. No matter how hard he struggled, he could not tear himself free, but was quickly lifted up by the red old man into the tree. And there,
yoink,
the hunter was eaten. After his grassy meal, the strange creature climbed down from the fig tree and went to a stream to drink. He filled his giant mouth with big gulps and swallowed. But soon the red old man began to claw, and suddenly he threw up the hunter on the ground. The hunter was whole as he disappeared into the old man's big gap, but he was far from himself. Like previously stated, he was only half as tall as he had been before, and his skin had turned completely red. When he looked around, the strange creature was gone, and the hunter hurried back to his village to ask the village elder what had happened. "You've been sleeping under a fig tree, haven't you?" asked the village elder. "Yes," the hunter admitted. "You have been swallowed by the Yara-Ma-Yha-Who," said the village elder. "And now you are turning into one yourself.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's how they reproduce.
Oh,
Soon
shit.
you will lose your nails and teeth, and suckers will grow on your fingers and toes. You must leave us, or you will destroy the entire village."
Get out. Get the hell out of here.
And so, the hunter was driven away from his home village to live the rest of his life as a monster in the wilderness.
Okay, so just asking questions. What a dick is that elder for not informing the public about this? Like, he came back like, "Oh, I see what happened. You sat under a fig tree." Okay, so this is implying that this guy, that it's not just general information that you shouldn't do this. Like, are you telling me
Or
he's
is the hunter just like
an idiot?
like
the
he's
village
been
idiot?
told? Yeah, he's been told, and he just
God damn it, Jerry, I told you not to go under the fig tree.
I didn't know which one was fig.
All right, you know what? Never mind. We solved it.
Like, yeah, you didn't know. It's not Jerry's fault. But at the end of the day, we have another awesome cryptid, I would call it, from Australia, and it sucks your blood. And it's been talked about since obviously the early 1900s, since he got it from all the tales in 1925, released it. So
Yeah,
it's been around for a minute. So who knows? Maybe it's a extinct form of like Tarsier. Maybe it is like some kind of crazy. But the whole swallowing you
look,
whole
dude,
thing is wild.
That is wild. That is a wild thing. But there are vampire bats, right? And those bats were basically, they can eat blood. Not everything can just eat blood.
Right.
The point is, there could be a primate species that has developed this. It would be really weird, especially to drink it through the hands, because that almost is like, well, is it a primate or is it a different species that looks like a primate? Which, if it looks like a frog, clearly different species.
I want to talk about alien stuff now.
That brings us to our next segment.
Disclosure discussion. Ha 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 ha. It's about aliens and stuff.
The enduring panic about cow mutilations.
Dun, dun, dun.
This comes to us from a May 2023 article posted by thenewyorker.com. On April 19th, the Madison County Sheriff's Office published a Facebook post about the death and mutilation of 6 cows. It was an unusual story for the farming community 100 miles north of Houston, where police reports tend more toward traffic violations and stray livestock. The news traveled quickly, racking up 17,000 shares on Facebook. Within a week, it had gone international. Much of the coverage lingered on the unnerving details highlighted in the Facebook post, that the cows found in 6 locations had their tongues and part of their flesh of their cheeks precisely excised, with no apparent signs of struggle. No predators or birds would scavenge the remains for several weeks after death, the sheriff's department wrote. A 7th cow was discovered soon afterward in a similar condition. So 7.
And this is classic cow mutilation stuff, like the whole surgical removal of things where it looks just very precise, and lack of blood and all that stuff. Tall tales, very much a cow mutilation. Since, Linda Moulton Howe has been talking about them since forever,
Yeah, and even like tales of them like being found like with their legs broken as if they were like dropped from a great height.
Oh, exactly.
They've
Yeah,
had
well,
that
and
too.
this is all new. This was, 2 years ago. So it's still happening is the point.
Right. Alarmed Facebook commenters variously blamed some cult, satanic rituals, chupacabras,
Chupacabra.
a serial killer in the making, and of course, aliens.
Well, aliens are the ones that we always classically say, but let's go for a sec that it's like a satanic cult. Well, that would mean that satanic cult has been operating for a long, long, long time. So I don't know, I guess as far as secret societies are concerned, you guys are nailing it.
Right. And they would have to be like surgical masters as well.
Well, that would be creepy, right? What if it was a secret society and it was almost like a fraternity if you go to med school, that if you go to a certain fraternity, you like join the secret brotherhood, and part of their experiments are just like covert medical experiments. And it can go into like, these were the same doctors who ended up helping Hitler in World War II. So you can get like, the Joseph Mengele thing in there. Oh, we could make a really dope movie about this.
I'm not going to lie. I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's write it.
That sounds rough.
So the cow story piqued the interest of Chuck Zukowski, a longtime paranormal investigator. Zukowski, who is based in Colorado Springs, specializes in mutilation cases, or, as he calls them, mutes. The tongues being gone is a signature, he told me. Although he has found reports of what seem like mute cases dating back to 1869, it wasn't until 1970s, when the nation was seized by a cow mutilation panic, that the phenomenon cohered into its most well-known form: cows drained of their blood, their body parts, typically eyes, tongues, cheeks, and sex organs, removed with surgical precision.
Yeah, I mean, all of that to me is science, right? Like,
Right.
because they're taking out organs to study the organs. So
Uh,
once again, aliens,
So
right?
that goes along with like the contract theory that we like basically made like our government or whatever made a contract with them, and we allow them to kind of like just do this, like go ahead, do your thing, experiment.
I love it, but why cows? Like that's the weird thing. It's not like we find sheep mutilated like this, or dogs, or cats, or even people. Well, I guess if we found a person, we would assume it was just like a doctor serial killer. But I mean, there's just not a lot of stories of other livestock that is,
Yeah,
even like a pig farm. You don't hear about like pigs
pigs,
missing.
no, or goats,
So
no.
what is it about freaking cows?
So let's jump back into it. We can. There's a bit more to this article that got pretty wild. Some reported mutilations are accompanied by other strange and seemingly inexplicable signs: circular depressions in the surrounding grass, animals with broken legs as if they had been dropped from great heights, predators that keep away from the carcass, perhaps sensing that something is amiss. In the 70s, mutilated cows began to be reported across the country, a couple dozen in Minnesota, more than 100 in Colorado, and others in Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and elsewhere. Midway through the decade, newspapers began to repeat the questionably sourced statistic of 10,000 total mutilations. By 1975, the Colorado Associated Press reportedly voted that the mutilations the number one story in the state. Now, reports of cattle mutilation are often linked to speculation about extraterrestrial activity. But in the 70s, many people believed that sinister government forces were to blame. Farmers and ranchers reported seeing unmarked helicopters hovering over their fields near mutilation sites. Some claimed that the aircraft had chased them or even fired at them. The paranoia had a contagious quality. Ranchers formed vigilante groups, tracked helicopter sightings, and stopped out of state vehicles to search them for evidence. It seemed possible that the panic could tip into something worse. Now it appears that ranchers are arming themselves to protect their livestock as well as their families and themselves, the Colorado Senator Floyd Haskell wrote to the FBI, pleading for the agency to open an investigation. Clearly, something must be done before someone gets hurt. One farmer shot a utility helicopter that was inspecting power lines.
Damn.
Like, I never heard of this.
I mean, hysteria. It happens. Like, think about the Salem witch trials, right? There was this movie called, I don't know, something New Jersey, and it was about when Orson Welles did the War of the Worlds thing, and
Yeah,
everyone freaked out. I mean, mass hysteria is a real thing.
it is. It is. And
So, fuck, whether you think it's aliens or the government, let's load up.
right, right. So obviously back then they were like, it's the government taking my cattle. They took our cows.
We're not doing that.
The Bureau of Land Management temporarily stopped doing aerial land surveys in eastern Colorado, and the Nebraska National Guard ordered pilots to fly helicopters 1,000 feet higher than usual. So it was a problem.
A bit of a problem.
Ranchers' suspicions that some cows were the victim of secret biological weapon tests were not as far-fetched as they sounded. In March of 1968, thousands of sheep convulsed and collapsed near Utah's Dugway Proving Ground, a U.S. Army facility established to test chemical and biological weapons. Ultimately, 6,000 animals died. The Army never fully acknowledged its responsibility for the incident until decades later, a reporter for the Salt Lake Tribune uncovered a declassified internal report admitting that there was incontrovertible evidence that a nerve agent had caused the deaths.
Yep.
What an interesting article. Aliens, government conspiracies. All of us here at Earthling Entertainment would love to know your thoughts. Contact us with your thoughts and theories on either our Facebook page, or you could email us directly at earthlingentertainmentpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, keep your eyes in the skies, Earthlings.
Or I guess in the case of cow mutilations, kind of keep your eyes like towards the fields.
I like that you gave me a sign out on that one. Thanks.
Yeah. When we have time to do the show notes thoroughly, you get little flares of things like that.
I like it. It feels real professional.
It is. It is. And you know what? It's a little weird. But you know what else is weird, Ryan?
Us.
us, yeah. But other things in life are weird. England has a lot of weird things. And actually, we're talking about one today on this week's
Real World Weird.
Bizarre banana mystery baffles British town.
I am baffled.
This comes to us from coasttocoastam.com. A British town has become gripped by a bizarre mystery wherein a plate of peeled bananas has appeared on the side of the road on the same day every month for at least a year.
Huh?
The flummoxing fruit phenomenon is...
Hold on. The flummoxing fruit phenomenon.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to write something. It'll be a book. It'll be a play. It might be, it'll just be an interpretive dance, but it'll be titled that.
That's
Holy
right.
crap. That is fantastic. Oh, screw it. We're just going to name the next episode that.
There you go. Reportedly, the talk of the town in the community of Beaston after the most recent occurrence last week. Baffled residents say that the bananas ritually reappear on the second day of every month, and the person behind the mysterious offerings has yet to be seen.
You got to hand it to him, though, if you can get away with it a few times, because at some point, isn't someone watching the corner waiting for the bananas?
You'd think so.
You'd have to start getting real sneaky with it.
Right.
Dressed as like postman and stuff. You'd be like a process server trying to like get these bananas there without anyone spotting you.
Interesting. Yeah. So while some say that the fruit started appearing around this time last year, others indicated that the beginning of the mystery could stretch back to sometime in 2023.
Once again, committed.
It's quite strange, mused resident James Oviedo. There's always a big bunch of them peeled on a plate, and they always appear to be drizzled with what seems to be honey.
Yeah, so this guy is also not cutting corners. He's making these bananas freaking delicious.
Right? The bewildering batches of bananas, usually between 15 and 20, have understandably spawned several theories among community members wondering who and what is behind the mystery. Noting that the fruit is always placed in the same spot across the street from a church, some have suggested that case could be religious in nature.
Yeah, but are they being insulting, or are they being like, do they just like, the priest will appreciate this, or, I'm just saying, it seems like a weird thing. It feels like if you're doing it, you're being kind of a dick, right?
Like a weird culture diss, just like, yeah, bananas.
Yeah. Because that's what you are. You're bananas.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't think it's religious is my point.
Yeah, I don't think so
I don't
either.
see a connection.
Another possibility considered by the community is that the bananas are simply being left for local wildlife.
That was your theory.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
However, that scenario does not explain why the fruit shows up on the same day every month.
Because that's Banana Day.
Although one might find that is evidently Banana Day to this person.
What the hell? Yeah.
That is Banana Day.
Solved it.
Although one might find some whimsy in the mystery, many in Beeson disagree, with one woman calling the situation strange and disgusting. Because the untouched bananas often wind up a mold-covered mess. To that end, resident Claire Short recently placed a sign at the spot wherein she asked the phantom fruit fan to kindly stop their curious crusade.
That is awesome. Here's a question, though. If you have such an issue with these fucking bananas rotting on the street, why don't you pick up the damn bananas?
Right.
Yeah. Maybe that's it, right? Maybe this is all about this woman needing more potassium in her diet. And her kids are like, I've tried everything. She will not listen to us. And then someone is really smart and they're like, well, she's OCD, right? So what if we put a plate of bananas every month in the same spot in front of this woman's house? Because she lives next to the church, mind you. And
Right.
just because eventually it'll irritate her enough that she will pick them up and throw them out in hopes that she'll start picking them up before they rot when they're still good. And because she loves honey so much, she may in fact eat them. And then, Jerry, your mother will get the potassium she so sorely needs.
It just feels like something that would be a little better, more tantalizing on like the kitchen table. Not at the side of the road,
I mean, honestly, you could probably go to GNC and get like a pill or something with potassium. That's not the point, Ryan. I wrote a fucking tale there, man. I spun a yarn that was worth telling, and you give me nothing.
That's what I've got, Joe. Nothing.
Ryan, that's bananas.
Alas, when the bananas appeared again, Joe, on January 2nd, she reportedly removed her message because I don't want it to become a big thing.
And she's a quitter.
Considering that the case has made worldwide headlines this week, it is likely too little, too late for that. Meanwhile, the community will have to wait until February 2nd to see if the widespread attention will result in Beastin finally being free of the banana mystery. We are going to check in.
Yeah, we need an update on this.
I'm setting it.
This is actually a very recent article, so we're gonna have to look this up to see if there's still an update. Yeah,
February 2nd.
February 2nd.
It's right around the corner.
It is right around the corner. I don't know, man. What do you think? I think that in my epic tale aside, I think you got to keep doing it, especially if it's starting to get attention. It's like the Chick-fil-A girl doing her weird faces. She had to keep making those videos because you got the attention. Now, the banana person, which, by the way, my theory is it was just someone in town who's fucking bored, but it like thought it would be funny.
I think it's an old person who is just like, oh, and I got to remember to put up, because on the one time every month when she gets her groceries, she probably doesn't eat bananas, and those are like delivered to her or something. She's just like, I know what I'll do. I'll put some honey on it. Animals like honey, and I'll leave it out on my way to church. And she probably parks her car at the side, puts it down, and no one suspects her because she's just the quiet little old lady. And I think that's what it is. It's just she thinks the animals love it, and everyone else is just like, what the hell are these bananas doing here?
See, I was going a different way with it. I was thinking of like, there's this guy who's got the weird accordion and the monkey with the cup trying to like get like tips, and he's always living on a boardwalk. Well, at some point, this monkey was murdered, and at this spot, he leaves a bunch of bananas in remembrance of this monkey. No, that's like a little memorial.
That's a thing. Like
you ever drive by the highway? And you see like a bunch of stuffed animal?
Roadside, like a roadside memorial. Yeah, those are heart wrenching.
That monkey was shot dead in the street,
and those bananas are, his owner just professing his love. To this day, he loved honey on his bananas.
Absolutely. I don't know I'm not saying monkeys don't eat bananas if you give a monkey a banana, but monkeys don't live anywhere where bananas are grown. So technically monkeys don't eat bananas. And that was actually started by Hollywood in the early days.
It's like, well,
giving
I know
chimpanzees bananas and shit, man.
Well, I know monkeys like to drink. So cheers.
Cheers.
Earthling Entertainment Special Report. 1. Robert Eggers is rumored to be writing and directing a new Labyrinth movie for the Jim Henson Company. 2. A new Adventure Time comic series will release this year. 3. A gender-swapped adaptation of the young adult novel Holes is being developed into a Disney Plus series. Wow. This has been an Earthling Entertainment Special Report. Yeah, it has.
Calling all comic fans, it's time to feed your brain at Green Brain Comics, where the freshest new issues, graphic novels, and manga hit the shelves every week. Whether you're looking for the hottest new series or the latest small press sensation, we've got it all. Every genre for every age, Green Brain Comics is your one-stop shop for all things graphic storytelling. Got questions? Our friendly staff knows their stuff. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the world of comics, we've got recommendations that'll keep you coming back for more. And don't forget to check out our special events. Green Brain Comics is not just a store, it's a community. Located in East Downtown Dearborn, we are at Green Brain Comics on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Shop online at greenbraincomics.com, and remember to feed your brain at Green Brain Comics.
It's true, you made it through to the second half of the show.
So, dude, do you remember when you and I were extras in a vampire film that was filmed in Detroit, and
at City Club, right?
We went to City Club, and we were in the basement there in City Club, and we each got killed as, like, vampires. We got staked.
Oh yeah, that was cool, man. I don't know if that movie ever came out. It was called Bite Me.
I don't know, but I remember having fun. Like there was a fun environment on the set.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But vampire movies in general, they're hard to do. When I did a show called Fuzz Malloy, it was a web series. But anyways, we had a vampire in episode 4, and it was a goofy show, so it was fine because we got to be goofy.
Yeah.
But trying to be scary and be taken seriously is a tough thing.
It's hard. It's an art form to do something truly scary that can really pull you into an ambience or that's why I'm such a fan of horror, because it's hard to do.
It is, and I like vampire movies on top of it. And we were lucky enough to actually have an interview with Jake C. Young. He's the guy who did he's the writer, director, and actor who did Daylight to Dark. It's this great new indie film. I checked it out right before our interview. Oh man, speaking of vampire fun, they got a cool I don't want to give anything away. Obviously I'm about to talk to him with the interview, but yeah, check it out, guys.
Hope you guys enjoy.
Hey guys, I'm here with Jake C. Young. He is a writer, he is a director, he is an actor, and he has this new film called Daylight to Dark, and we're going to talk all about it. How you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So, vampires, right? Creature feature. Let's jump in. What drew you to this particular genre?
So I guess you could say I've kind of always had an infatuation for suspense movies. If you've ever checked out any of my other stuff, I've wrote and directed a few horror suspense style thrillers. I got to work with some really amazing people on those. But as far as what drew me to this per se is I had originally had this idea that I wanted to do. I wanted to do like a vampire western style thing, and just infatuation with the whole western genre. And as this began to get developed, a friend of mine had actually put us in contact with a Roland Jewett, formerly Roland Jarrett, who was the original writer of a movie called An American Vampire Story, or American Vampire. So with that, we kind of had talked, and we said, hey man, we'd love to remake this movie. And we played with it back and forth. Due to some copyright stuff, we couldn't actually get that film. So what we ended up doing is Roland was like, this is the universe I created on these stories and these characters that I created. He said, what if we done like a spin-off version of this movie? He said, kind of like an unofficial sequel to it. And I was like, that could work. And I wrote kind of like a rough draft treatment for the film and sent it off to Roland, and he loved it. He just wanted to start writing with the idea of following up to American Vampire.
So would you say it was a spiritual sequel, if you will?
Yeah. And again, sorry if I have to take drink breaks in between. Got back in the country for people listening. I just got back into the country, so I've been I went through customs, kind of come back with the flu, so I'm just drinking water in between. So, but so for Roland, it was definitely a spiritual sequel, and it was really amazing, to say that I got to be a part of that. I got to be a part of that universe that he created, and that was a classic, one of those cheesy grunge horror movies from the 90s. Had Trevor Lesueur, Adam West. It was like one of the first films Carmen Electra was ever in, so
wow, yeah.
Yeah, Roland always used to joke with us, and he would say, I kind of, credit myself as discovering, Carmen Electra. So, that was pretty cool.
That's a nice notch on the belt there.
For sure.
So, did you send him your script and he wrote his version, or were you guys writing it together? How did that process actually come out?
Yeah, so we kind of, I guess you would say we kind of wrote it together. I sent him the treatment that I had. Some things that I really wanted to see in the film, and things I wanted in there, and just kind of my in general idea. Rollin kind of took that and ran with it. He cleaned up the dialogue, kind of made it flow a little more coherently, put his little references and spin-offs in there.
To tie it
Which
into the other film.
Yeah, which I've had past experience with doing this in a film. I directed several years ago now a movie called A Night of the Undead, which was actually it was a sequel to the original George Romero film Night of the Living Dead, the original one that came out in '68, black and white. I done a directorial on that. Directed it, done most of the camera stuff with a couple other guys that had reached out to me asking if I'd be interested in directing a film with them, and I was like, yeah. And at first they just wanted to do like a straight remake of the movie, and I was like, no, 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 no. I was like, it would be better, as we have seen, without this. Remakes can be good, but they can also kind of get to the point to where you're stepping into uncharted territory there, especially with such a classic. So I had the idea, what if we gave it a similar name? It was originally going to be called, Night of the Living Dead. What if we give it a similar name, but we just, made it take place like 60 years after the original? So I've kind of had a little bit of experience as far as making nods to other films.
That's actually awesome. I sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But Night of the Living Dead, as it stands, has the direct sequel, which is Dawn of the Dead. But from there, branched off to Zombie and Return of the Living Dead. So there's already 3 timelines from Night of the Living Dead. So you actually made a 4th timeline, if you think about it.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
grand
that was kind of cool to do. So, and that's one thing, that'll forever kind of be a part of something I got to do. So it worked out very well.
and that
Uh,
informed this project.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you take things that you learn along the way and you kind of combine them into your knowledge and experience. This film, this was one that it had a really good cast. I think from start all the way to finish, we had an amazing cast. People were playing the right roles, so therefore it just worked.
Yeah, I actually thought the main vampire Vlad was very charismatic gentleman. At first I wasn't sure. I was like, is he trying to do the accent from old timey vampires? But then it kind of started really growing on me as more of just like a overly suave man doing his vampire thing.
And that's the thing. Wade Yates, who played Vlad, the main vampire, that's just him. That's just how he actually is.
There was a good cadence there.
Yeah, he was good. We had originally done a reading, and I hope you don't mind me telling this. He'll get over it. But we had originally done a reading, casting him as the lead vampire, because Wade he's actually a film student. This was one of his first really big projects to get to work on.
Sure.
And so, he'd been working with his acting, and he had tried to do the original, like you said, uh the very thick accent of like vampires. And when he first rattled it off during the table read, I mean, me and everybody there just like we fell apart, because he was doing it so much thicker than what you actually hear in the movie. I told him, I was like, man, that accent was, I said, that was so thick. I was about to ask what the letter of the day was. I said, I was about to, it sounded like Count from Sesame Street. He's like, are you having a good time? And I was like, no. I was like, let's just go with the British accent, just the accent that you have, and we'll just flourish it. But overall, he done a very good job on that role.
And you did a good job as the director, knowing when to tell your actor to maybe pull back a bit.
Oh, that's a thing. As a film director, you kind of have to learn, how to do that with people, but also not cross the line of being, completely rude and be like, but no, I gotta say, everybody in this film, they done an amazing job, and each person brought their own uniqueness to the film. It was really amazing to be able to work with people. Like the young boy who plays the lead, Mason Drake Daffrin. This was one. He had been in another film with me, and he's been in and out of Broadway most of his life. He's a sweet kid, love him to death, really good boy. We had a lot of fun on set, and we got to ride up to Lexington together and do a little. Well, I guess I don't know where you're from. So Lexington is like the central hub of where I'm at. So we got to go up there and do a local news interview on the television. So I got to really got tight with him, and this was one of his first major role productions in a film. So that was really cool. We've actually got quite a few of people that were in this that were first timers, but then again, we got a lot of people who are very experienced.
Yeah, Tuesday Night is a name drop for sure. She was in the fourth Nightmare on Elm Street as one of the main Elm Street kids.
Yeah, she was Kristen Parker. She reprised the role of Patricia Arquette's Kristen Parker. Played the lead, and she was she was a blast to work with. Really really good lady. Really glad got to see her. Got to hang out for a little bit. She was just amazing as far as just acting and getting to share those experiences with someone who's basically like a legend in the the horror film industry. And I got to give a huge shout out to some of the people that worked on this film for getting her for us. And I really appreciated getting to work with her, getting to have direct screen time with her, and we really I felt like we had a good play and a good chemistry off of one another on the screen. And where one of us faltered, I feel like the other just picked up, and we just had that kind of I got it like a cosmic energy when you're acting, and two people are really vibing on screen, that comes across, and it's almost a I guess you would say it's more of a natural thing, It's just like it's actually happening. You're not trying to act, so it just
You're living
it
in the moment.
right, yeah, and it becomes a very interesting type of feeling that you're getting when you're acting with people like that. And as a director, being in the movie as well as acting in it, I'm wearing a lot of hats, so it was difficult, but yet when you have people that as you know understanding and as good of a team as I had while creating this film, everything from our production assistants all the way to lighting to camera crew, everyone who was a part of it, really just made it flow coherently. So, got to give huge, props to those individuals.
Sure, yeah. When you were acting, how did you handle that? Because there's many different schools of thought here. Did you act the scene and then go back for replay to watch it and critique yourself, or did you hand it over to an assistant director or your DP to kind of help keep everything moving?
When you're me, I've been known ever since I started making film. Everyone who's ever worked with me will tell you Jake is kind of they a lot of I got a nickname while working on a film in Cincinnati. They all called me One Take Jake because I was so adamant about my style of directing, which I feel is something that just kind of runs in my blood. Just getting it done and not going off so many takes, but actually getting it done. And everyone who's ever worked with me will tell you that I tend to complete films much sooner than their schedule and bring them in way under their projected budget, and that just becomes to doing a guerrilla style filmmaking. Just learning what's up in here and learning how to make it come out and put it on screen.
Sure,
um,
you're shooting to edit. You kind of see the film playing out as you're recording.
and I done all the editing on this film. I splice everything. I do all my own editing. So when you have that in mind, and when you're the one that's doing the editing, you have a different sense of how you see things. And ultimately, I feel like that is very, very good to be portrayed across the screen. You're really gonna get what you're looking for when you slow down long enough to know what you want, but also don't drag it out as far. Because I remember on this film, I had a couple of the leads telling me like, I just done a movie and I was super surprised, because we got so much done in a day. I'm talking, I tend to get between 5 and 10 scenes done at a single shoot.
All right, so
So
if we're talking pages, what do you think?
that's about 6 to 7 pages a shoot.
You're doing well, man. You're doing well. And if you are coming in under budget and getting it done quickly, when you get to the studio system, they're gonna love you.
I tried that for a while, but and I actually I'd learned to do this, professionally. I've been to, out in California. I've learned how to do all that, but mostly what I wanted to do is when I came back to my home state, I just kind of made my own type of independent film studio, and just this gives me the opportunity to sort of run things the way I want to do it, but it also gives me a really good chance to take up and stand up for indie filmmakers. There's a lot of indie filmmakers who are getting squashed by the big guy, which are most of these mainstream distributors and Hollywood. And there's a lot of like underground stuff that kind of goes on in independent film just as much as there is in major Hollywood film. And I have I've created sort of something that was the first of its kind here where I'm at, and I also have a on my website. We also do we're sort of an unofficial film commission for the area, and that is
The county or Kentucky in general.
a little bit of both.
Fair enough.
Yeah, a little bit of both. But my goal is to just help filmmakers get resources for anything they need, because I was once in those shoes, and I know what it's like to have, the whole world kind of, I've had many instances with, have your back up against the wall and no one there to support you. So, I've really made a point to try to, stand up for the indie filmmaker and, let them bring what they want to life. I once heard, John Carpenter say, if you can get a cheap camera and you have the ability to make movies, make them. And I say the same thing. If you have the ability to do something, I don't care if it's even on your iPhone, you got to start somewhere.
Well, I
Now,
think the new 28 weeks later or 28 years later was shot on an iPhone. So
yeah, and it's really cool. Yeah, and I was actually on this little trip I had just got back from. I was actually shooting some stuff on my iPhone. And I was sitting there and I was, I was talking with a few people, and telling them I was thinking about getting an iPhone, and and then I was telling Karen about it, and she was like, "Not you're not at that level yet." I was like, I was like, okay, so we may just stick with cameras for now. But yeah, like you got to start somewhere, and the resources and tools that we have now are so much different than what we had when I first started doing this.
yeah, when I went to film school, we were learning on mini DV tapes. So
Right, yeah.
I'm right there with you. But there is something to be said about shooting a film in out of the Hollywood system, because just as a small example, I shot a feature film, wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but I shot a feature film for $2,000 in Detroit, and in LA it cost me $9,000 to rent a studio for 2 days.
Right, exactly. And sometimes a lot of times it just boils down to working with what you got.
Yeah.
That's where I think that we kind of lose that luster as filmmakers. You kind of lose that when you start trying to outsource everything, and oh, well, I gotta have this for this, and I gotta have money for this and this, rather than just get creative. I feel like it takes that creativity away of you just knowing what you need and how to work with it. Now, granted, there are some things you really you really do need money for, and let's be honest, I mean, money makes everything easier, but
But
don't.
sometimes the best creative things come from the trying to work out how we're going to do this.
Exactly, and that's what I tell anyone who ever asks me, about filming advice is, it's just one of those things, you just got to kind of imagine you have nothing and go from there. Just start from nothing and go from there. And if you don't have something, you might have to change something up in the script just a little bit, but there's a lot you can do without actually compromising your film when you just think outside the box.
You know, I think when it comes to you as a filmmaker, now granted, this is the only film of yours I've seen so far, but what really impressed me about it is the pacing of the story and the way you shot it. I was able to fall into the world and watch the film without just feeling like, oh, okay, next scene. Oh, all right, next scene. And sometimes these indie films, they have an issue with pacing, but good storytellers, which clearly you are able to really capture the audience. And I was trying to give you a compliment. I think you really captured your world well, is all I'm trying to say.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. That means a lot to me. Considering before the version that you and everyone else saw, there is a 2-hour extended director's cut of this movie.
Sure.
And that was a lot of the I don't criticism that I got was everybody's like, bro, this movie is way too long. So I cut it down, for to fit a standard theatrical release. So it's like an hour and what, 20 or 40 minutes. Ultimately though, I was really happy even with cutting it down. It just worked. And a lot of those extras added scenes are just extended dialogue, things like that. And there will be a 2-hour director's cut that I do plan to release after we get this one actually flourished to the different streaming platforms. It's already been pitched. It's just, we're just waiting for the green light and get it ready to go.
Yeah, the distribution process is always fun with all the many deals and hoops you need to jump through. And then, oh, wait, is this going to play in China? We'll remove that scene with the ghost and anything else we
Yeah.
got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. We
Well, sometimes notes are good because you had some people view it. They said a little bit of issue with the pacing. I saw the second version. I didn't feel that at all.
Well, that's good. Yeah, and that again, that's a huge compliment on my behalf. So thank you for that. I definitely appreciate that. And honestly, if I can make people feel what you just said that you felt, that's really that's I've accomplished my goal. I've accomplished what I set out to do, was to make a good film that everyone could have a good time looking at, and not let it get taken away from me. Because let's be honest, sometimes you got these guys that come in as producers or whatever, and then they want to try to take the film away from you. Or you got people that just try to take your film away by saying this and this. And that's really cool to be able to have the compliment like you just gave me, and still know that I'm doing something as an independent filmmaker that I hope people will enjoy and have a good time watching.
I think they definitely will, and I'm glad you got to hang on to this baby, man. I've sold a few of mine, and they've never seen the light of day, so I get it.
Well, I've been pretty lucky when it comes to filmmaking, and I've had a lot of people come and go in this industry with relationships, because this can be a hard industry. And I think a lot of people that know entertainment, they know that it is. You don't have an option to keep a ton of friends around. I guess I would say you do, to an extent. But there comes a time when you're doing stuff and people just kind of want to latch on and ride your success. And that causes a lot of good friends to kind of, are you my friend or are you not? So that's just kind of one of those things that does take place, very real in this industry. But like I said, I've been very fortunate to have a great group of people to work with. And I've been really lucky when it comes to filmmaking. And I hope that I get the same support and the continued luck for years to come. So fingers crossed.
You know what? Definitely, and I'm sure you will. You've made some magic here. There's a lot of things that I really enjoyed in this film. Was there was an older vampire character. I don't want to give away too much, so I'm not going to describe the scene, but he has vampire teeth dentures. And when he grabbed them and put them in, to me, I'm like, good, excellent, well done here. And it brought a question to my mind. Now, did this man not have teeth before he turned into a vampire and later got dentures, or did he lose his teeth after becoming a vampire? There's some deep backstory here, man.
You know, that is going to be something you're going to have to talk to Roland Jewett about.
There you go.
Because I have no idea. That was one of those things, just kind of throw it in there because it's funny. So,
It was.
because the film itself is actually, it's actually listed as a comedy because it's got a very comedic tone to it. So it was pretty nice to be able to do that, and have that light, fun-filled aspect instead of it just being complete horror and dark, and darkness and which, don't get me wrong, I love making suspense movies, but I had a lot of fun with this, and I think everybody did just because we had so many corny and cheesy little quirks in there that just really make you kind of relate to the film.
A lot of them worked, and you got to remember, even it had funny parts. Even
But
Bill
yeah,
Skarsgård was funny at times.
if you don't play into it, and honestly, I feel like this was us kind of playing into it, and a lot of this stuff got improv. So like we would have a script and we would have actors who would be following their script, and eventually they would just kind of go off while we were shooting, and I'd be like, no, no, don't stop the camera, and it would just go, and it was hilarious, and it's even greater to watch. Jeremy Boggs, who's a great friend of mine, he plays the character of Renfield in this movie.
I did
And
love that character, by the way. He was
yeah,
a hoot and a holler, if you will.
and that was a cool thing because everybody said they couldn't tell if he was good or if he was bad or if he was just there long enough to make you forget that the movie is super serious. So, it was he nailed this role because when I first took it to him, I was like, Jeremy, look, I got this role for you. And he was like, I don't know, man. And he's like, it's too goofy. And I was like, okay, don't make it goofy. I was like, how about you're this really annoyed guy who's had his everything he's worked for taken over by these vampires, and you just you're just an annoyed old man. I love it, and he was like, perfect. So we just went with it, and that's how he seemed to pull it off. And that character has got to be one of my favorites in the entire film. So it was really interesting, and some of the stuff he says is just crazy.
He's a great character, and it's kind of like you think this was the king of the town. His family ran the town. Then the 50s come around, vampires show up, they change the name to Wormwood. I mean, I'd be pissed off too. I do understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was another thing too that we really tried to stick with was our vampires. We really tried to make them look as if they were still in that 50s era, so that's why you always see our vampires wearing the leather jackets and the glasses, and they look like they should be in that era, so it just kind of worked.
It did. It did. I mean, I felt for them though, because when you have a nice established town and you've turned too many people and now there's not enough food, I mean,
Yeah.
it's rough. It's rough out there for a vampire.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, you kind of got to decide because some of the vampires are probably, are they good? Are they bad? Vlad, he was a bad dude. So
I don't
I
know.
thought,
Just because you drink blood doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person. Maybe you
well,
volunteer at an animal shelter on top of it.
yeah, I mean that, or I don't have a problem with him being a vampire. What I have a problem with him was he was just kind of scummy because he like basically roofied that girl's drink with vampire blood. Like who does that? So that's why he's a bad guy. Don't slip people blood without them knowing it.
Well, you know what? And topical on top of it, man.
Right? Yeah. Like what? Come on, man.
I mean, if you're worried about getting anything slipped in your drink, now you might be turning into a vampire. It could get even worse. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
just say it.
And I think Casey Ryan, who plays the role of Bridget, I think she actually says that in the movie. She's like, "How could this get any worse?" She's like, "I have so much going on, and now I'm turning into a vampire." So it's like,
And she misses her concert on top of it. I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And for anybody else watching, uh, watch the movie because you're going to be kind of lost as to what we're talking about. But I feel like it's definitely worth the watch. Really
brother
good
and
story.
sister get stuck in a small town and then
Yeah.
besieged by vampires. Luckily, Vampire Hunter shows up to help out, played by you
Played by me.
magnificently.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I would say magnificent, but it was definitely a role I've been waiting for a very long time to get to play on screen. and there are several references in there to older cowboy films and things that I think that people who also watched American Vampire, if you watch it first, you'll be able to pick up a lot of these references that are dropped in the Daylight to Dark film.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, the film's done. You completed it. Now the next journey is what well, I guess what does come next? What is your plan? I assume you're doing the festival circuit.
So I'm doing a little bit of both. Festival, we actually have entered into quite a few festivals. Um, we actually, thanks to someone who has been very supportive of our endeavors, we have actually got it submitted to Tribeca Film Festival, which is huge for us. Especially for me as a director to say I have a film that made it to Tribeca. Whether or not we get an official selection, that's in the air. But the fact that it's going, I feel very accomplished with that.
Shit, that is a big deal. It really is.
I mean, it is for me. I mean, I'm a small town kid from Kentucky who just had a dream and just ran with a camera for the rest of my life. So it it was definitely a big deal for me. Festivals, but we're also doing distribution on the streaming services type deal. Streaming services, there will be physical copies available for purchase from all major retailers like Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon, all that good stuff. You'll be able to get those. There is coming soon. I don't have a date on that yet. It shouldn't be long after we actually get a release on the film itself. Which that'll be early this year. So just kind of keep an eye out on it, for Tubi, Amazon Prime, Google Play, wherever you get your streaming stuff. But definitely look for the 2 hours extended director's cut. It's got a lot of extra a lot of extra scenes in there that are just kind of if you were ever interested, or if you watch the film and you see something in there that you weren't entirely sure about, that was where I got to really make the magic happen as the director. um, Getting to release my director's cut. It is 2 hours, but if you can stomach it, I would greatly appreciate you giving it a watch. So I really think that's about it as far as the release goes.
Well, that's fantastic, man. And I think everybody here listening, look out for Daylight to Dark, and it'll be out sometime this year. And thank you very much, Jake, for being here and talking to us.
Absolutely.
We'd love to have you on the show again. But, for now, from everyone here at Earthling Entertainment, see ya.
See, man. Thank you.
Gotta tell you, man, he was a really nice guy. And you got a chance to see the film too, right?
Yeah, I like how all the vampires were like 50s.
Yeah.
They're like from the 50s. I enjoyed that twist.
It was a lot of fun. So guys, make sure to check that out. Hopefully it gets all the big festivals and coming out. So who knows what their distribution is going to end up being, but it'll definitely be on streaming out there. So make sure to check out Jake C. Young's new film, Daylight to Dark. And yeah, it was really nice that he was able to come by.
Daylight to Dark.
Daylight to Dark.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Cool.
Ooh, that's some
cool.
good music, man.
Yeah.
It's like you were in a band and you know something about music.
Ah, shucks.
Aw, shucks. Well, you know what, man? Speaking of music, why don't we just talk a little bit about our next segment?
Music Mumbles.
The Beatles almost made the first Lord of the Rings movie. This comes to us from Collider.com. Long before Peter Jackson directed the Beatles' Get Back, the Fab Four already had a subtle connection to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Back in the mid-1960s, decades before Peter Jackson or even Ralph Bakshi thought
I
of...
think it's Bocce, Ralph Bocce.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
I
love
that animator, by the way.
Okay. Thought of bringing Middle Earth to the silver screen. The Beatles were fresh off of their first two feature films with United Artists, 1964's A Hard Day's Night and 1965's Help. The band.
Obviously, I've heard of A Hard Day's Night, but I actually have not heard of Help.
Help! Help! I need somebody. Help!
Oh, really?
Not just anybody.
Oh.
Help!
All right, fair enough.
I honestly learned that from the Powerpuff Girls. There was a whole episode where they just
There's
did.
no way they paid for the Beatles. That's
They
not a
literally-
Beatles song, is it?
Yeah, they literally did Beatles references throughout the entire episode. I forget what it was called. And yeah, because
Do you know how much money it is to get like the rights to a Beatles song? Good for
bad guy-
Powerpuff Girls.
the bad guys called themselves the Beat-Alls.
They must have got away with parody law then.
I guess so.
I don't know.
Because yeah, when they were trying to get the power, the one girl was like, "Help! I need somebody. Help!"
Oh yeah. All right, fair enough.
The band was signed on to complete. I am not ashamed to admit that's how I know that.
Fair enough.
The band was signed on to complete a third film with the production company, and in their early stages of development, Paul, John, George, and Ringo considered a possibility so ambitious that it almost comes off as comical. They wanted to adapt and star in their own Lord of the Rings film.
I would pay so much money to see a 1960s version of them doing this.
I don't think I would. I would pay to stay in this timeline where this didn't happen.
It's like, all right, Rod, we've solved the whole thing with fossil fuels.
Yep.
We've
solved it.
Yeah, we've solved everything.
Everything.
All governments are happy. Everyone's holding hands, and no one's pissed off. But the Beatles have made the Lord of the Rings movies. Nope, Ryan's out.
I don't know. I don't know, Joe. I'm just saying this is wild to me. Like I just have a feeling it would be so bad.
I would be so bad it's good. Didn't Kiss do a movie where they were fighting demons or saving Santa or something?
Kiss did a few movies that were god awful.
I want all of them.
Oh, dude.
And I want this Lord of the Rings Beatles movie. So read more. How did this come about?
Almost as soon as J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings books hit shelves in the 1950s, nearly 2 decades after The Hobbit's publication in 1939. Fans and film executives alike fantasized about what the epic trilogy could look like on screen. Given the scope of the story and the limited special effects at the time, the possibility of a movie adaptation seemed beyond reach. Although Ralph Bakshi offered a dubious animated version of the story in the late 1970s. A live-action film that proved faithful to the beloved book's dignity, grace, and sublime imagery was deemed all but unfilmable.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the scope, thinking of oh yeah, how are we going to do these grandiose battles?
Yeah,
Animation seemed like the most viable thing.
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's just no way they could do it.
But that's why I want them to do it, because you'd have to be creative to either make it work or you'd have to just do things so awfully. I would love to. Remember we started this show where I was talking about how much I love the Mario Brothers movie?
Yes.
You know that I would love this fucking
I do
film.
know this, Joe. I know this. So these barriers did not stop the Beatles from dreaming.
Nope.
And in the aftermath of their 6th #1 album and 2nd blockbuster hit, one can understand why they didn't think twice before taking on the impossible. That being noted, a 1960s Beatle-led Lord of the Rings movie would have looked and felt quite different from the Peter Jackson films that came out nearly 40 years later. In fact, it probably would have been quite different from anything the average Tolkien fan ever imagined.
That's true, because they were doing one movie, so they were doing the whole story in one movie. So that in of itself, you'd have to get real creative with how to make that work.
And back then, yeah, no film is going to be they weren't doing 2+ hour films really that often back then.
Oh, it's not true. There was what was it? Metropolis, which is a 1920s film. It's 3.5 hours. Man.
Christ.
Yeah.
In line with the Beatles' first 2 films, their Lord of the Rings would have been a musical featuring their very own songs. Yes. 60s rock and roll certainly sets a different tone than Howard Shore's iconic score does.
Yep. Dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah.
Dun 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 dun. I want to hold your hand.
Goosebumps. Instead of first seeing Middle Earth come to life over the prophecy theme, we may have been hearing Eleanor Rigby. Both are great songs, but they carry desperate energies, it says here. Disparate energies.
You know what's funny is I'm imagining the whole what is it, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm imagining like that level of film on the Lord of the Rings.
That's
like,
pretty much where my head goes.
Like-
is like they're filming something, and then they pass, like the camera pans by these rocks, and they're sitting the Beatles with like their like acoustic instruments, and they start singing.
oh, this ring is heavy and it hurts my heart. Yes.
Lambus bread. Lambus bread.
It's so good it makes me want to be dead. That's the ring. Don't do it, Frodo. Come with me.
This is going a little bit too show tune and not very Beatles.
You know what? That's fair.
So one feels so when it comes to these great songs, one feels a bit more fitting for an epic fantasy than the other. Albeit Tolkien's novels are filled with more singing than the eventual films let on. These songs are old, folkish tunes rather than the pop rock from the 20th century.
I don't know, man. I headbang to chip the spoons and blunt the forks
Oh,
all
yeah.
the fucking time.
You too, dude. That's on my playlist, bro.
That's what Bilbo Baggins hates, motherfucker.
Yeah. To make no, I love that song. No, I'm not even exaggerating. That is on my playlist.
Well, your son's name is Thorin, so
That's right.
You liking that makes sense.
And far over the misty mountains go. Everyone, come on. Everyone
I'm
knows
the Beatles.
that. Yeah, it just it doesn't fit.
To be fair, that was The Hobbit and not Lord of the Rings.
That's true. That's true. To make matters even more bizarre, the Beatles' casting choices would have gone against expectations. The natural assumption would be that the four rock stars would portray the four main hobbits, but they actually chose to play different characters scattered throughout the story. While Part McCartney and Ringo Starr were going to play Frodo and Sam, respectively, George Harrison and John Lennon were not eyeing the roles of Merry and Pippin, or vice versa. Instead, George would have played Gandalf, I guess it makes sense, and
Yeah, why
John would have played Gollum.
They must have really wanted to like stretch out Gollum's role in these films.
Well, yeah, I mean, without Gollum, I don't think Frodo would have made it, you know? It's like a yin and yang there. Like, you had to have him, but he was a dick.
I think we've had some friends like that.
Crazy little crackheads. What can you do?
It's my precious. God damn it, you stole my TV for another ring?
Yes, precious. It knows. It knows what we do. So, although an older, bearded George might have made for a passable Gandalf, the 1960s George still had a bit too much youth in him to be a convincing gray wizard. Meanwhile, John as Gollum would have been a true sight to behold. One can only imagine what the makeup would have looked like, or how it might have sounded to hear the voice of Generation do his best Schmeagol impression.
What's up? Beatles, bro.
Before busting.
Is it bro? Hold on. I'm sorry, Ryan. Groovy, bro.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that was
Much better.
That was the adjustment, right?
Much better.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Before busting out into a all you need is love.
And a ring.
While all of this might sound like the makings of a very kitschy, the Beatles' first... What? I'm going to read that again.
Yeah.
While all of this might sound like the makings of a very kitschy... This might be British, like a British term. The Beatles' first choice of director suggests a greater degree of seriousness. Apparently, they wanted Stanley Kubrick behind the camera. This was right around the time that Kubrick would have been working on 2001: A Space Odyssey. And he had already made a name for himself with Spartacus, Lolita, and Oscar-nominated Dr. Strangelove.
Holy crap, dude. People freak out over Kubrick. They think he's like the greatest director in the entire world. Going to film school, all you ever hear is people like, what's your favorite director? And it's always like these big, very artsy things. And my favorite film is, The Godfather because it's a deconstruction of blah, 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 blah.
So evidently the Beatles meant business, and the possibility of a Kubrick-directed Lord of the Rings is a mind-boggling what-if question in and of itself. Given the auteur's head of his time special effects, affinity for grandeur, meticulous attention to detail and profound ability to elicit great performances from his actors, the Beatles' Lord of the Rings, under Kubrick's direction, could have been far more than just a gag. It could have been a truly impressive first attempt at adapting Tolkien's work. Unfortunately, Kubrick was not up to the task.
Yeah. He was like, I'm good.
According to Ian Nathan's book, Anything You Can Imagine, Peter Jackson and the Making of Middle-earth, the four Beatles actually showed up at the director's doorstep in the middle of the night to pitch the film. While the director showed hospitality and listened to their idea, he ultimately turned it down.
Yeah, if you think about it, like some of the biggest rock stars in the world, like show up at your house, be like, I am not going to do this job, but you got to take the meeting.
Well, right. Of course you're going to take the meeting. No, like, what an opportunity. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
Could have done Lord of the Rings for the Beatles. Did I ever tell you that? It's like only a dozen times, man. After Kubrick rejected the Beatles and their fantasy film, the band apparently considered Richard Lester, David Lean, and Michelangelo Antonioni, I hope I did that right, for the project, all esteemed filmmakers who very well could have held their own in bringing Tolkien to life. In the end, however, it was Tolkien himself who nixed the idea.
Dun, dun, dun. He had opinions.
The author, then in his late 70s, was a longtime skeptic of any attempts to adapt his books into films.
Yeah, that's fair.
In the 60s, he also grew disillusioned with the hippie embracement of Middle-earth, so naturally he didn't much like the idea of the Beatles being the first filmic faces of his work. Whether one deems it smart or snobbish, Tolkien's response does shine a light on the fact that a Beatles-led Lord of the Rings adaptation might not have sounded as absurd in the 60s as it does today. Now, it is easy to associate the fantasy trilogy with Jackson's elevated, grandiose, blockbuster adaptations, but 4 decades prior, Middle-earth and Beatlemania shared a common ground in popular culture. Like Lord of the Rings, the Beatles started in the 1950s, but it wasn't until the 60s that they reached the height of their popularity. Both Tolkien and the Beatles resonated with the hippie counterculture for their messages of love, peace, inclusivity, and a return to free living. Hence, while the idea of the Beatles making the first Lord of the Rings movie may seem laughable by today's standards, it probably felt rather fitting when first proposed.
That makes sense. You really do have to sometimes take what's going on in the world in account. That's why when anybody checks out, like for instance, you had mentioned that Christmas Vacation, when you rewatched it with your girlfriend, that she had some issues with him being like so upset.
Well, she pointed it out.
Yeah, with that he's so upset that he didn't get a bonus. But in the 80s, it was actually like unheard of to not get a bonus at Christmas. So when they made that movie, that was like that made sense at the time.
Well, standing in his mansion.
Yeah, well, standing in his mansion, yeah.
So now, both Tolkien and the Beatles resonated with the hippie counterculture. So all at the same time, Tolkien and Beatles fans alike can rejoice for the eventual films that came to be. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy is a masterpiece of cinema that stays true to the books in both spirit and scale, except for Tom Bombadil.
I know, but Tom Bombadil is in the Rings of Power season 2, and the Rings of Power season 2 is so much better than season 1, and you have to watch it. Continue.
Meanwhile, in the wake of the Beatles' Lost Tolkien project, their third film ended up being Yellow Submarine. While the actual bandmates didn't play an immense role in the film, their cartoon counterparts were not actually voiced by them. It still might be the Beatles' most intriguing contribution to cinema for its unmatched psychedelic animation. The Beatles' Lord of the Rings might not have been one of the greatest films ever made, but it is certainly one of the most intriguing to imagine. And had it ever been put to
Celluloid.
Thank you.
Celluloid.
It would probably have been filled with humor and heart.
I would love to see an alternate universe where this existed, and we've talked about it, and no, you wouldn't. But
no, I wouldn't, because it's like, could you imagine, like, so that, let's say that happened, right? That is going to affect how the films were made. It, like,
the Peter Jackson films.
That's the way, in my opinion, it does, because, like, a weird example, Nosferatu just came out, And I remember watching it, and I remember talking to you, being like, there were so many scenes that like reminded me, almost like he pulled it right out of Mel Brooks's Dracula Dead and Loving It. Not that he like stole from it, you know what I mean, but definitely
He was
influenced,
inspired.
yeah, inspired.
You betcha.
And then I see an interview with him just a while ago where he literally said that he changed certain things in the film after he sat and rewatched Mel Brooks's Dracula Dead and Loving It. So I'm like, I called it. So it's just like, so in my, like, no
you
matter.
think it would affect it? I disagree, though. I think the Peter Jackson films would have come out just as they are. I don't think they would have been affected by it. Like, maybe there'd be something like an image or like a wardrobe choice or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, there's just a difference between a loose adaptation and a true adaptation. And I feel like Peter Jackson would have been just as big of a fan. Because the whole point is he did a Beatles documentary, so he likes the Beatles. So if the Beatles did one, that might have inspired him even more. Oh,
well,
shit!
That's what I'm saying, is it would have influenced him way more on
All
how he
right.
would have done it.
All right, you know what? I started out disagreeing with you, and I talked myself into it. You know what, Ryan? You're right.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. It's cool that we can. That what a cool story. You know, what a thing to think about. But I'm glad it didn't happen. I love our Lord of the Rings. I love this timeline for them.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's this week's Music Mumbles.
Remember that guy? Remember that gal? Well, now they're dead.
Disney animator Mike Toth has died. This comes to us from us, Earthling Entertainment. Mike Toth, a character and effects animator whose career spanned many iconic television and film productions, has died December 29th, 2024. The news of his passing was announced by his daughter, Christine Vergara. Sadly, Toth's death was attributed to a long battle with alcoholism. Some of his most impressive animation credits include He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and Rover Dangerfield.
Yes.
Great film. Additionally, Michael has visual effects credits on Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Tarzan, Mulan, and Hercules. All great films. Throughout his illustrious career, Michael had the honor of working at Filmation Studios, Bear Animation, and, of course, the Walt Disney Company. In his final years, Toth continued to share his love for animation and appeared at local Comic-Cons across the country. Michael Toth, you will be missed.
That's right. This is a good example of someone where it's like you have seen his work, even though you don't know his name.
Yep.
And if you saw a picture of him, you wouldn't know who he was. And it just goes to show you how many people in the arts just go unseen to be a piece of a bigger thing, to create something like an animated film. And yeah, when I heard about this guy's death, I was just surfing online. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for, this week's segment. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an article about it at all. And I thought that was really weird. So I just kept looking, and that's why we kind of wrote our own here.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I wanted to say, tip my hat to those who've created some of our greatest childhood memories.
Yep. It's amazing how many people are behind the curtain making those amazing movies that have changed our lives, you know?
That's right. Well, Mike Toth, you will be missed. Earthling Entertainment headlines.
Hellraiser returns to theaters this February. This comes to us from Fangoria.com. For the first time in almost 40 years since its 1987 release, Clive Barker's subversive horror classic, Hellraiser, is returning to theaters for a limited time thanks to Fathom Events. On February 5th and 6th, the newly remastered 4K release will hit select theaters, accompanied by a 2004 interview with Pinhead himself, Under the Skin, Doug Bradley on Hellraiser. Based on Barker's 1986 novella, The Hellbound Heart, Hellraiser introduced the world to hit the horny and horrific world of the Cenobites.
Cenobites.
Thank you. Group of extra-dimensional
Sadomasochistic.
Thank you. Beings who cannot, it's like, that's a big word, cannot differentiate between pain and pleasure. Alongside Bradley as the Hell Priest, Hellraiser stars Andrew Robinson, Claire Higgins, Ashley Lawrence, Sean Chapman, and Oliver Smith. Hellraiser birthed a franchise with 9 sequels following.
Well, that's not going to be in the sequel game now.
The most recent being David Bruckner's. Now we could do it like make sure everyone's paying attention.
There you go.
2022 reboot, also entitled Hellraiser. Interested? Head over to Fathom Events site for more information and to get your hands on tickets.
Fathom Events always does fun things. I got to see a film called Mary and the Witchflower, which was this, it's kind of like a Studio Ghibli film. It's not important. The Fathom Events does little fun showings. Would you go see Hellraiser on the big screen? Were you a fan of Hellraiser?
I thought it was cool. I thought the Cenobites were really cool, but I'm being honest, the story I never cared for it. I thought it was really weird.
You're not a huge fan, yeah.
I'm really not. I thought the concept is cool. The puzzle box is cool. The
opening
makeup
up
and everything.
Opening up a gateway to hell and having basically like sadomasochistic demons who are super into S&M, you know?
Yeah, just I don't know. It didn't really age, I guess, that well for me. By the time I saw it, I was kind of like,
there's so many sequels.
I know, gosh.
I really liked the third one, but my favorite was the fourth one because a lot of people hate that one because it's basically the ending of the story, and a lot of people were like, that's when they jump the shark, because spoiler, we go into space.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Every fourth film, you need to go into space.
Of course.
The Leprechaun did it. It's just important. And Jason did it, but not till number 10. But the point that was so you can have the X in the title.
Yeah,
so.
he had stuff to do.
Every horror film needs to go to space.
Right.
I had a proposed Tremors sequel that took place on a colony on Mars because that is where the Tremors originated from.
Well, yeah, and that makes sense, you know?
Yeah. Well, anyways.
In every horror story, everybody's just trying to get to space.
Everything.
Seems relevant.
Dun, dun, dun. I don't know. If you're a fan of Hellraiser, it's kind of cool to be able to see this. I would love for them to re-release some of my childhood films. So, hey, if you like Hellraiser, check out Fathom Events.
Right. So, in speaking of childhood things that they keep making new stuff up, we have a bit of an update here from the world of Star Wars.
Headline number 2.
Star Wars casts Game of Thrones The Hound actor Rory McCann as Balin Skull in Ahsoka Season 2, following Ray Stevenson's death. This comes to us from IGN.com. Disney has recast the role of fan-favorite Star Wars character Balin Skull in Ahsoka Season 2, following the death of actor Ray Stevenson, with Game of Thrones The Hound actor Rory McCann taking over. As reported by The Hollywood Reporter, Disney is opting to continue Skull's story in Ahsoka Season 2 and potentially beyond instead of bringing it to a close following the death of Stevenson in 2023. The famed actor, who also appeared in Thor, RRR, The Punisher, Warzone, suffered from a brief illness and died 3 months before the premiere of Ahsoka Episode 1.
So he never got to see fan reception, good or bad.
And we loved him. He was so good.
I think no matter what you think about the series, he would have gotten the love for his role.
Oh, hands down, yeah. His portrayal of Skull was widely considered a standout performance of the first season.
Agreed.
Disney later announced that Season 2 of the show is being developed, and alongside The Mandalorian and its incoming film sequel, its story is expected to continue into the Star Wars film from Lucasfilm Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni. Daddy Dave. As Skull's story was left open at the end of Ahsoka Season 1, Filoni seemingly has big plans for the character that required a recasting. McCann, who most famously played the Hound in Game of Thrones, but has also appeared in Knuckles, Hot Fuzz, and more, will therefore take over beginning in Ahsoka Season 2. The first season was relatively well received, especially perhaps for fans of Star Wars Rebels. Ahsoka starts off rocky before soaring into the weirdest corners of the Star Wars lore.
That's right. And we ended seeing this character, Balin Skull, standing on a statue or ruins of statues, giant statues, Lord of the Rings style, of the Mortis gods, man. And that is some deep cut Star Wars lore.
That's from Clone Wars cartoon.
Yes. Well, that was the first time we talked about it. But the Mortis gods are all tied into the origin of the Force, like some deep Star Wars lore. So you can't set up that and just be like at the beginning of next season, he's dead.
Right.
I mean, I guess you can because the Emperor is back somehow. So you could be like, Balin's skull's exploded. He's fucking gone.
Yep. That was it.
Yeah, he was sitting in a chair and it was just like spontaneous human combustion. It was the damnedest thing.
Put the Kyber crystal in wrong.
Yeah,
It happens sometimes. It just
backfires.
exploded.
Oh my god, that's something we don't talk about very often.
Well, damn. Like
Yeah.
just into pink mist.
But it's got to be like during snow, so you could just get like the pink like spray bottle against the white. Oh, that's not insensitive because he died, right?
No.
Okay. We loved that character.
We
for the
did.
record. Yeah.
We did, man. He killed it. So speaking of killing it,
Oh man, but you know what? Speaking of killing it, you know what killed it? Moana 2. Do you know it's about to hit $1 billion if it hasn't already?
wow.
Yeah. So very successful film, and sometimes things come out of the woodwork. With our headline number 3, our final headline of the show.
Animator files $10 billion lawsuit over Disney's Moana franchise. This comes to us from animationmagazine.net. A lawsuit has been filed against Disney, good luck, over claims that Walt Disney Animation Studios lifted elements of another project pitch to create Moana and the recent sequel, Moana 2. Claimant Buck Woodall is seeking at least $10 billion in damages, saying that
It
materials...
just feels like such an absurd
it's
number.
ridiculous.
Like, yes, Disney bought Star Wars for $4 billion, but they're gonna give you 10.
That's dude. It's saying, well, they always pick a big number, right? Because they just know they're hoping they'll settle.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I want 10 billion, but I'll settle for 100,000.
Like, I'm not. That's why they do that, I think. So he wants at least 10 billion in damages, saying that materials created for his original project, Bucky, were co-opted by the entertainment giant.
I gotta be honest, Bucky's not as good of a name as Moana, but continue.
The suit states that Woodall produced a screenplay and trailer for Bucky and shared details of the project with Jenny Marchick, the director of development for Mandeville Films, in 2003. When the studio had a first look deal with Disney, Marchick, who is now head of feature film development at DreamWorks Animation, allegedly requested additional materials, including character designs, storyboards, and production plans in a bid to greenlight the film.
So, hypothetically, if he had provided all those things, the character designs and production, and it does line up with Moana exactly, there is a little bit more credibility than just being like, I had an idea and you stole it. I don't know. Let's read further.
The complainant reads, Disney's Moana was produced in the wake of Woodall's delivery to the defendants of virtually all consistent parts necessary for its development and production after more than 17 years of inspiration and work on his animated film project. The similarities which the suit puts could not possibly have been accidental between Bucky and 2016's Moana, include the key plot following a teenager who sets off on a dangerous voyage in Polynesian waters to save an endangered island, as well as recurring themes based on Polynesian beliefs, particularly the incarnation of spiritual ancestors as animals, a plot involving a necklace, a protagonist encountering a tattooed demigod toting a giant fishhook, and a giant creature inside a mountain.
So there are some similarities.
The plaintiff also alleges similarities between his original project and Moana 2, pointing out the sequence where Moana's crew are sucked into a watery portal. Spoiler alert.
Water portals.
Another dramatic and unique device imagery found in the plaintiff's materials that could not possibly have been developed by chance or without malicious intentions. Woodall had previously attempted to sue over the issue, but a U.S. district judge ruled in November last year that the suit had been filed too late. The release of the sequel sparked an opportunity to try again. Ron Clements, a Disney veteran who directed with John Musker and Don Hall and wrote with Jared Bush and Musker, Moana said in a court statement pertaining to the first suit, Moana was not inspired by or based in any way on Woodall or his Bucky project, which I learned of for the first time after this lawsuit was filed. So far, Moana 2 has earned over $990 million in box office worldwide. The first film grossed $643.3 million and received Oscar nominations for Best Animation Feature, the Best Original Song. The franchise has also spawned major consumer products programs.
See, I guess that's where he must calculate the 10 billion, because if the first movie only made $500 million and the second movie has made $1 billion, why do you think 10? Well, he's counting lunch boxes and towels and merchandising and toys and what have you. That's why he thinks he's entitled to this.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
It does. And at the surface, you'd think, okay, maybe there's something to this, right?
Right.
I don't think that. No, not at all.
I
I don't think Disney stole it.
I don't think they stole it. It was probably just a happenstance that, there's some similar things, of course, but...
Well, okay, if you're based on Polynesian beliefs, there are demigods. There's tattoo in their culture.
Right.
Having the fish hook, like all those things could just be like, yeah, well, we also did something based on Polynesian beliefs.
Yeah.
But here's the real thing, the honest reason why I don't think Disney stole this. Because this guy is not a millionaire, right?
Right.
So wouldn't it be easier for Disney just to be like, hey, we want to buy the rights to Bucky. Here's $1 million.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to steal shit. You know who's going to steal shit? The small company who like is on their last legs financially, not Disney.
Right.
Disney will just buy it.
Yeah.
They make films and shows that they know are going to lose money, but might generate more subscribers. You know, they do these big, they're looking big picture. If they're going to like, hey, even if we give this guy $5 million, the first movie made $500 million. The second movie made $1 billion. They would be like, hey, here's 10 million. That's like one small, tiny percentage of that.
I agree. No, you're totally right when it comes to that. And at the end of the day, it wasn't The Rock in his eye. He wouldn't have thought of The Rock. So that alone makes it so original. I don't care how it was inspired.
The Rock is actually of Polynesian descent, I believe. He actually is from Hawaii, right? Well, apparently Jason Momoa is too, but he didn't grow up like there. Like he was born there and he went back there later.
Mm-hmm.
But do you not want to see a Moana 3 now with two of the Polynesian gods duking it out and have it be Jason Momoa and The Rock?
I think that you just pitched the third film, sir.
I don't know how it would work narratively, mostly due to the fact I haven't seen the second film.
I haven't seen
yet.
the second one either.
My kid is, he's not old enough to really have opinions, so I'm just putting on what I want for him. So we're not taking him to the theater yet. You know what works out, though? The timing might work out for the Bluey movie in 2027 to bring everybody in the family.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one. My first movie I think I brought my kids to, like, in the theater, and they actually sat through it and loved it, was the Mario Brothers movie. The new one, the cartoon one.
Oh, yeah?
So
that's kind of nice.
That was the first one. It was cool.
Peaches, peaches, peaches,
Oh, yeah.
peaches, peaches. Oh, Jack Black killed it. He's no Dennis Hopper. You know, Ryan, Dennis Hopper in the 1993 Mario Brothers movie is by far his best performance. Throw out Easy Rider.
Dude, Speed. Bro, Speed.
Throw out Speed.
No, I will never throw out Speed.
Throw out the Devon-worshipping antagonist from The Crow 4, The Crow Wicked Prayer, starring Edward Furlong.
I will
Throw it all out.
No, his career is amazing. And I will
It
go
is
down.
amazing.
I will go down in with that ship. I will go down. Speed was like his best work.
Speed was good, but 2 years prior, he missed. Like the Academy did not give him what he deserved for Best Actor in the Super Mario Brothers film. Right,
And his hair looked fantastic.
Well, you know what?
Those stripes.
It did. I bet we could talk about this forever, but unfortunately, it's been quite a show already, and I think we've reached the end.
I think so too, dude.
Well, hey guys, thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard here today, make sure to download the episode. Download all the episodes. We have a bunch, more than 70, because we count the bonus episodes that you could download right now. And if you also want to support the show or just get a neat bumper sticker, you could always hit us up at Earthling Entertainment Podcast at gmail.com. Send us an address to send it to, and we will send you some stickers for free.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it. Sorry, doing my best Nosferatu.
I like it.
Is to share this podcast with a loved one, with a co-worker.
Because they are all Earthlings. We are all Earthlings, and please share the show. And thank you guys so much for listening today. We have a lot of fun doing this.
Absolutely. And help join the Earthling community and find other Earthlings, like you said. All right, bud. Well, I guess that's it. Have a good one. See you next week.
Goodbye.
What a blood-sucking episode. Hey, I'm your host who got all his blood drained, Joe Wakefield.
And I'm Ryan Lang. Nosferatu. Nosferatu.
You know, it'd be an SNL sketch in the 70s. It'd be Nosferatu Jew, and he'd come out with the little curlers and the hat and be like, "Hey, I'm a vampire."
Yeah.
Nowadays, people would be like super insensitive, and But I'm just saying that sketch would work in the 70s.
Get Paul Rudd to do it, and it'll work.
Like, hey,
It'll work.
I'm Nosferatu.
Like, it would totally
Oh,
work.
Paul Rudd.
It would work.
It would.
They love Paul Rudd.
All right.